What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Less than 2 weeks ago, something what was never supposed to happen, something that proves total incompetence of the FSB, did happen in the heart of Moscow. This story sounds straight from the 90s with criminal kingpins, bodyguards and vendettas. And basically what happened is that Armen Sarkisyan, a top-tier mobster who was a pretty influential person in so-called Donetsk People's Republic, who led the Boxing Federation and allegedly had connections to the former Ukrainian president Viktor Yanukovych and Ramzan Kadyrov's men, got nullified in what should have been a tranquil middle-class apartment building. No matter how you justify it, this is a tale that screams gangster warfare. In modern Russia, that isn't all that shocking anymore. It's a reality check. Because all around the country we are seeing a pattern. From attempted coups in Armenia to volunteer battalions in Ukraine to feuds with Kadyrovцы, and even the lawlessness of Kadyrovцы themselves with their unlimited federal funding. All this is a swirl of militarized organizations battling for control and resources. So today, let's plunge into this chaotic world and see how one dramatic explosion is not just a crime story. It is a window into what Russia is quickly becoming. When people talk about a notorious crime lord surrounded by bodyguards getting nullified in a Moscow lobby, it triggers immediate flashbacks to the wild era right after the Soviet Union collapse. The biggest country divided. Political chaos took place, poverty and uncertainty increased. So many public and government organizations ended up for grabs at first-come, first-served basis. So no wonder, duels for power started immediately and lasted for more than a decade. Those were the days when eliminations in the broad daylight were as common as a morning cup of tea. People thought they had left that behind, or at least buried it under layers of new security systems, such as cameras hanging on every corner, and also an army of intelligence officers claiming they've got everything under control. But apparently, it never happened. This explosion pulled the rug out from under any illusion that such large-scale hits are a distant memory. It did not happen in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of nowhere. No, it happened in an upscale residential complex in Shukino, an area where normal, law-abiding families reside. Once upon a time, local deputies worked hard to ensure that such neighborhoods stayed safe. And now, the entire building is shaken by a very loud noise. Sarkisyan himself was notorious enough to star in multiple criminal sagas, leading the Arbat Battalion in the Ukrainian war, scheming in Armenia, and taking part in instigating pro-Yanukovych thugs during the 2014 Euromaidan protests. This man was not some petty thief. He had major connections, an extensive network, and resources that stretched across borders, different countries. Even if you have never heard about him, just know that he symbolized a breed of a businessman who thrives in corrupt environments. In the grand scheme of Russia's warring factions, he was yet another player in a game that's grown so murky, the official intelligence services cannot or will not even try to contain it, it seems. And sure, some small crimes like a teenager writing an anti-Putin comment in his personal WhatsApp conversation with his mother will be investigated thoroughly by the FSB agents. The kid will be paraded across all major propagandistic TV channels labeled as traitor, simultaneously showing the superior work of Russian security services, capable of catching even the earliest signs of terroristic activities. But when something truly big happens, like an actual security threat, the FSB is completely helpless. This most recent nullification is just one of these many examples. Now let's consider the prime suspects of this event. Obviously, Russian propagandists love to point fingers at Ukraine, especially these days, as every single loud noise in Russia automatically has a Ukrainian signature. Yet, the most popular guess swirls around is that Kadyrov's men might be behind it. You know, the same Kadyrov who loves to show loyalty to the Kremlin, but also runs a mini-empire of paramilitary forces and allied gangsters. When you put two large crime syndicates together, the Arbat Battalion crew under Armen Sarkisyan and the Kadyrovцы network commanded by well, Kadyrov obviously, it is no wonder we see them clashing over who gets the bigger piece of the pie. There is a lot of money floating around in a country at war, from black market arms deals to smuggled goods, and these groups do not have many moral principles not to pursue such profitable opportunities. That's their main source of income after all. They are not going to work in a 9-to-5 cubicle doing accounting and marketing. But look at the bigger picture. It's not just about revenge or petty disputes. It's mostly about demonstrating power. You can eliminate your opponent just like this in the middle of Moscow and suffer absolutely no consequences. And this does tell your future enemies not to mess with you. Because in a war-torn economy, might becomes right. And people who have learned to fire weapons on the battlefield come home to realize they can earn a living, apparently, from intimidation and violence. That's especially true if they are connected to some official structure, however murky it might be. These ex-fighters know how to strategize, plant devices and carry out missions with military precision. And that's the frightening part. This explosion is just a small puzzle piece in a broader pattern of Russia, morphing into a patchwork of heavily armed gangs, all fighting for the right to carve up territory and establish financial flows for themselves. The rivalries you see now are only the warm-up act for what could become standard practice once the war ends and the heroes of the special military operation return home, mentally damaged and angry at the society. Russia's intelligence community loves to boast about its ability to discover alleged terror plots and crack down on extremists. But try explaining that to the residents of Alaya Porusa, where a gang presumably orchestrated an elaborate elimination, complete with infiltration, planting devices, timing everything perfectly, and slipping away unnoticed. We are talking about a city full of security cameras literally on every corner, on every street, and police whose main supposed goal is to suspect everyone and be extra careful. If you want to see a test case of how prepared the Russian government is for widespread criminal violence, well, this is it. And in our opinion, they failed completely. Sure, they can track social media posts, throw activists in jail for liking the wrong tweet, but apparently they cannot stop an entire operation that ends with leaving a pile of ash on the marble floor of a fancy lobby, where just 2 minutes ago a family with kids walked by to send their children to kindergarten. This wouldn't be a colossal failure if it was a one-time thing, but it's not. In the last year we have seen everything from bizarre sabotage incidents, drones flying above Kremlin, and actual attacks right in the heart of Moscow. I'm not even talking about daily at this point attacks against Russian oil infrastructure. It happens so frequently, nobody cares anymore. Each time official agencies act blindsided, saying that it was so meticulously planned it was impossible to track the organizers and discover the plot while it was forming. So we are now left asking, if they cannot prevent these big-ticket crimes, what chance do they have when thousands of highly trained, battle-hardened individuals finally pour back across the border? These guys are not returning to stable factories or thriving local businesses. They will not want to work 12-hour shifts for $300 per month. When they were sitting in trenches and sharing life stories with comrades for $2,000. And now they are coming home to a nation in economic turmoil, brimming with alternative ways to make cash, typically at the end of the rifle barrel. And these comrades, they have spent so much time bonding together under the sounds of Ukrainian drones, will become their similar-minded business partners. At least the ones who survive and return home. And if the government's current track record is any measure, the men in charge of safety and security are not exactly succeeding in their job. This is where the puzzle pieces flock together in an unsettling picture. A Russia that's well on its way to becoming the playground of militarized criminal organizations. Soldiers who spent months or even years in combat learn skills that do not translate to steady 9-to-5 careers. They come home with their PTSD, limited job prospects, and a sense that power lies in violence. They will also have a feeling that the society and the regime abandoned them completely, that the ultimate sacrifice they offered is now simply forgotten. People will be looking at them with indifference, or some with even open dissatisfaction and distrust. employers during interviews will be asking questions like, have you served during the special military operation? And if the answer comes back positive, I highly doubt any reasonable business would want to hire such an unstable employee. So, these people will be left alone to figure out themselves how to make money in creative ways, quote unquote. And they will require a lot of money. Once you get a taste of $2,000 to $3,000 per month, which is a top 1% salary in Russia, you would not want to settle for less. At the same time, the legal system is busy serving the interests of the ruling elite, ignoring the simmering gang wars unfolding just beneath the surface. It only takes a handful of well-organized groups, be they Kadyrov's men, some new private military company, or old-fashioned mobsters, to realize that the government cannot keep pace with them. And once that happens, you are staring at the birth of the cartelized country. Some folks still cling to illusions that Russia will magically revert to normal after the conflict in Ukraine is over. But there is a reason why so many observers have started comparing Russia's trajectory to that of certain South American nations, where the central government was never able to reclaim the monopoly on violence. When cartels seep into daily life, the entire concept of a safe public space vanishes. This might feel like exaggeration until you hear loud noises waking up the entire neighborhoods and realize that these criminals can literally strike wherever and whoever they want. The day you start normalizing such hits, the day you shrug and say, well, that's just how it is, that's the day society has truly lost the battle. And what about Putin? Did he say anything about this specific nullification or any other similar events in the past? Well, as you would have guessed, he said absolutely nothing. He remained silent. These are minor inconveniences, not worthy of his attention or precious TV time. After all, if you ignore such problems long enough, eventually they will go away. But what he forgets is that inevitably problems accumulate and come back, biting you in the ass harder than you could have ever imagined. Well, there you have it, guys. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you wish to support my work, the links down below. For example, my Patreon for additional bonus content. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you tomorrow.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe in ridiculous Russian propaganda.